What is up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about Nikolai Belinski and his history in the Zombies universe. So Sergeant Nikolai Belinski was a Russian soldier who fought in the Red Army and is a playable main character in Zombies, serving as the main protagonist of Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and the Ether story. His player indicator is blue, shared with Robert McNamara and Robert Englund, but is randomized in Moon and all the subsequent maps. An alternate version of Nikolai known as Primus Nikolai appears in Origins and reappears in Call of Duty Black Ops 3 and the giant Derisen Drac Zetsubo no Shima Garad Krovi, which also includes the original timeline Nikolai Belinski, now referred to as Ultimus Nikolai, Revelations and Blood of the Dead. This version also appears alongside the original version in the ending cutscene for Classified. Both versions are playable in Alpha Omega, and both versions appear in the cutscene for Tagter Toten. On June 24, 1941, Nikolai Belinski's wife was killed during a German advance in the Soviet Union. In an effort to numb the pain, Nikolai increasingly turned to vodka. When drunk, he thought of imaginary wives that he had never had, and comments about them as if they were real. To hide the pain buried beneath his true self, on December 9, 1942, Nikolai's brother was also killed during the Battle of Stalingrad. On January 16, 1943, Red Army Sergeant Nikolai Belinski was captured by the German forces during the Battle of Stalingrad. Later, he became a test subject in Group 935's experiments. On July 15, 1945, Dr. Edward Richtofen traveled to their Siberian facility to do further research on the live specimens. Group 935 begins transferring 3 test subjects for experimentation: Nikolai, Pablo, and Takio, alongside fellow test subjects and an American soldier named Tank Dempsey, who had replaced the Mexican spy who was accidentally killed named Pablo Marinas, and a Japanese soldier named Takeo Masaki. Each are exposed to serums in Element 115 causing memory loss, and in Nikolai's case, loss of responding to stimuli. As Richtofen stated, he recently begun responding to stimuli, but only after injections of a new serum made primarily from vodka. Seeking to create the Agarthan device as a backup plan to reach Agartha, Richtofen creates the elemental shard using his soul as well as the soul of the 3 test subjects, including Nikolai, permanently binding them to the ether itself. On September 27, 1945, Nikolai along with the other test subjects are put to sleep until further need to reawaken. On October 14, 1945, Nikolai along with the other test subjects are reawakened by Richtofen. With no memory of who they were or who Richtofen is, Nikolai along with Dempsey and Takio agree to help him. The 4 would become known as Ultimus. On October 21st, 1945, Nikolai along with the rest of the Ultimus crew venture off to Group 935's Rising Sun facility in Japan to obtain Richtofen's diary. Unknown to Nikolai along with Dempsey and Takio, the plans Richtofen detailed in his diary are to take control of the zombies and destroy the crew along with Samantha Maxis, who is the current controller of the zombies once he obtains the power from the MPD. On October 28, 1945, Ultimus then returns to Derese. Following Richtofen's orders, they plan to use the teleporter to teleport to the moon and confront Samantha. Unfortunately, the Wunderwaffe DG-2 overloaded the teleporter and sent them through time and space, which caused Richtofen to drop his diary. From Derese, Ultimus teleported through time and space and ended up on Kino on October 28, 1963. Another station once ran by Group 935, which was located at an abandoned theater in Germany. Unbeknownst to them, they began to receive help at this point by Dr. Monty, a keeper who added changes in the background across time, such as chalk drawings of weapons on the walls and helping Group 935 come up with the ideas to make the Porca-Colas, etc. Ultimus located a lunar lander and flew to the Ascension facility in Soviet territory, which is where Richtofen finds out his diary is located. Ultimus then arrives at a Soviet cosmodrome on November 6, 1963, and following Richtofen's orders, freed Gersh, a scientist who worked for the Ascension Group from a Casimir mechanism. After Samantha corrupted Yuri Zavoysky, another scientist of the Ascension Group, and obeyed her wish by tricking Gersh into activating the Gersh device, the rift created by it absorbed him and allowed Samantha to travel through. Richtofen recovered his diary and learned that they needed the Vril device from the Siberian facility for his plan. Maintaining his ethereal form, Gersh sent Ultimus into a rift to their destination before beginning his travels across space and time. The group then teleports to Group 935's Siberian facility on March 17, 2011, where George Romero is filming a zombie movie with 4 well-known actors. Samantha, in her pursuit of Ultimus, unleashes an undead outbreak. The celebrities find the group trapped in a smaller room. The film stars thought the undead horde found fight them actually, ultimately recovering the Vril device for Richtofen, as well as the Golden Rod. Ultimus then teleports to an exotic jungle where Richtofen once teleported to in one of his experiments, known as Shangri-La. In an effort to acquire the next artifact, Richtofen stated he required to defeat Samantha, the Focusing Stone, and Ultimus soon arrived at Shangri-La on April 25th, 1956. Ultimus discovered explorers Brock and Gary, who are trying to find the Agartha during the eclipse. They're unwittingly trapped in a time loop with the help of Brock and Gary. The group assists Richtofen in acquiring the Focusing Stone. Having everything necessary to complete his plan, Richtofen teleported the group to Hangar 18 in Area 51 on October 13, 2025. Overrun by zombies, Ultimus quickly ran to the teleporter in the hangar, which teleported them to Griffin Station on the moon. Using the Vril device and the Focusing Stone, Richtofen had completed his grand scheme and swapped bodies with Samantha on the moon, giving him full control of the zombies in the ether. Nikolai, along with Dempsey and Takio, then realized Richtofen's scheme for unlimited power and attempted to stop him by contacting Ludwig Maxis, who was present at the time at Griffin Station on the moon. Instead of helping the trio, however, Maxis manipulated them by claiming that Richtofen's link could be destroyed by launching 3 missiles to the server link from Agartha and the moon, to sever the link. And the trio went forward with the plan to fire the missiles only for the Earth's ozone layer to become polluted, and for the explosion as a result of the missiles to create more zombies and further chaos. Nikolai, along with the rest of the Ultimus crew, end up traveling from the moon back to the Pentagon as revealed and classified. The 4 were discovered by Cornelius Purnell, who recognized Dempsey and Richtofen, who at the time was brain dead due to Samantha's soul no longer inhabiting his body. Nikolai and the others are then held captive in Hangars 4 on Groomlink for potential Element 115 experiments from the U.S. government. Nikolai is alive, but traumatized by the events that occurred while on the moon. When Takio expresses confusion on how they were back on Earth despite blowing it up, Dempsey simply puts it as more time travel BS. Dempsey is also confused on how Richtofen got his body back despite witnessing him switch souls with Samantha. Moments later, the Primus crew teleports in the cell, being led by Primus Nikolai. After uniting the teams as one and telling the Ultimus crew that they must leave quickly, Primus Nikolai says that a war must be fought, with Dempsey saying, "War? What kind of war?" And Primus Nikolai replies by saying, "A war unlike anything you have ever seen before, the Great War." On August 3rd, 1917, Sergeant Nikolai Belinski of the Imperial Russian Army was sent into exile. On December 10th, 1917, still exiled in Europe, Nikolai received many orders from the Imperial Russian Army to investigate the enemy war machine. Still loyal to the motherland, he willingly obliged, and on February 23rd, 1918, Nikolai wrote of the ongoing civil war in his homeland. He did not expect peace to last long, but he is enjoying his time in France while he's still spying on the Group 935. On June 4th, 1918, Element 115 completely awakened from the undead night from the Great War and quickly consumed the camp. Nikolai along with the American spy Tank Dempsey and the Japanese spy Takio Misaki, unite with the German scientist Edward Richtofen on the battlefield and help free a girl named Samantha from her imprisonment in the Agartha. The 4 united marks the return of Primus from the original Great War, as the group were different versions of them. Samantha, who was freed and sent to the house, then Primus to their next destination. Nikolai, along with Dempsey and Takio, upon learning of Richtofen's multi-dimensional travels, attempt to stop him for fearing that he will disrupt the established continuity of the dimensions. After several dimension jumps and failed attempts, they arrive at the original timeline, which has been slightly altered due to Richtofen's past actions of traveling through the universes and killing his other selves. At the Doris facility on October 13, 1945, just moments after Ultimus Richtofen trapped Maxis and Samantha in the teleporter with Fluffy, Nikolai, Dempsey, and Takio confront Ultimus Richtofen, telling him that there was a chain of events that must be carried out and prompt him to awaken the original versions of themselves. As the zombie horde approached from them from outside, Richtofen ignored the 3's warnings and turned on the teleporter, only to find Primus Richtofen inside. Primus Richtofen then shot Ultimus Richtofen in the head, killing him instantly. This triggered a fracturization across the original timeline. While the group expresses disappointment in Richtofen for tampering with history, he defends his action, believing that what he does will be to secure a better future. While the others fend off the zombies, Richtofen pretended to use the summoning key to acquire the original Richtofen soul. Eventually, the four activate a beacon in the facility, allowing them access from another dimension to locate them in space and time, telling them that he will find them sooner or later. After acquiring a giant robot from the Derice facility, the four pursued the scattered remains of Group 935 to Griffin Castle, codenamed Eagle's Nest, on November 5, 1945. The Germans had captured Ultimus Dempsey's cryo chamber from being experimented on by Ultimus Richtofen and planned to bring him to Griffin Station, with the premise close behind until a German soldier fires a Panzerschreck at the giant robot, disabling it before it can retrieve Ultimus Dempsey. After arriving at Griffin Castle, the young four watch as a rocket containing Ultimus Dempsey launches to the moon. After making radio contact with Dr. Graf, Ultimus Richtofen's second-in-command, Richtofen masquerades as his Ultimus older self in order to fool Graf. However, Graf becomes suspicious of Richtofen's changes of personality and announces him as saying as an imposter. Using the death ray, the young four manage to bring the rocket containing Ultimus Dempsey back to the castle, much to Graf's anger, who activated a failsafe so that they couldn't touch the chamber. Using the Vril device obtained from the crash site, the young four awakened a ghost keeper and helped it return to its physical form. Before it returns the favor and brings the MPD from the moon to the castle. However, the keeper becomes corrupted, forcing the four to battle it. Eventually defeating it. After defeating it, Graf expresses his extreme anger, vowing to destroy them and the castle itself in order to tie up these loose ends. The four use the summoning key to launch several missiles toward the moon, destroying it, ultimately destroying Griffin Station and killing any Group 935 scientists at the station, including Graf. After walking towards Ultimus Dempsey cryo chamber, Richtofen activated the summoning key, forcing the others to levitate in the air. Here, Richtofen's plan is revealed to Nikolai and the rest of the group. Richtofen planned to kill the Ultimus versions of themselves to be put in the summoning key, like he supposedly did with his other self at the Derice facility. Then Dempsey himself sadly put his other self down. Richtofen then captured Ultimus Dempsey's soul in the key. Nikolai and the other three then traveled to a different fractured timeline to an island, arriving on a Japanese vessel heading for a Division 9 facility. On October 18, 1945, before being caught and the summoning key being taken away from him, a brief fight ensues with the Japanese soldiers, with Richtofen burning one alive before he notices the key rolling toward the ocean. Luckily, Takeo manages to barely catch the key by his fingertips. Much to Richtofen's relief, the four are then forced to swim to a nearby island. After the ship blows up, later Nikolai was present when Ultimus Takeo Masaki was cured from being a thrasher to collect his soul. After Ultimus Takeo honorably sacrifices himself for the better future, Richtofen then preserved his soul. Initially, Dempsey suggested going after Ultimus Nikolai, but Richtofen said a chain of events must be set in motion. Realizing that he wants to save his three comrades from their eventual fate, Richtofen then takes them to Alcatraz on July 4, 1941, where he meets his younger self and acquires the Victus blood samples. Primus then jumps to another fractured timeline in a war-torn Stalingrad on November 6, 1945, to kill the Ultimus Nikolai Belinski, and to place his soul in the summoning key. Eventually, the four are teleported out of the sky and parachute in front of Ultimus Nikolai's mech, while he is distracted with the vodka and listening to Ace of Spades on his radio. Upon seeing them, Ultimus Nikolai attempts to kill them until a dragon throws him into the building. Later, Dempsey and the others make a temporary truce with Ultimus Nikolai in order to kill the dragon. Afterward, Dempsey and the other three demand Ultimus Nikolai to surrender, to which he refuses and betrays them. This led to Primus Nikolai having a brief conversation with his Ultimus version, stating that he would stop trying to bury his emotion with an alcohol-fueled rage. Primus Nikolai then gets shot by his Ultimus self, where it lands on his armor. Primus Nikolai retaliates with a devastating blow to the head with a shotgun on Ultimus Nikolai. Richtofen opens a portal in the sky with Maxis' help and lights a beacon from the summoning key, which releases Ultimus Nikolai, Takeo, and Dempsey. After this, he says they will see Maxis soon. Later, the mysterious voice contacts Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takeo, informing them that Richtofen can't hear him. He congratulates the crew on their progress of fixing the fracturing universe. However, he informs them that Richtofen had been searching for years for the correct versions of them to close off their dimensions, suggesting that the original timeline versions of the characters were the ones who determined the universe disorders and fates of the incarnations of the alternate versions of the characters in the other universes, who have all been erased due to the originals being killed off. He also tells them not to trust Richtofen and that he's been in the house for ages. Finally, the voice introduces himself as Dr. Monty, claiming it's so nice to see the characters. Soon after the events of Gerard Krovi, Nikolai, along with the rest of Primus' crew, finally arrive at the house. There, Richtofen reunites with Maxis. The two then destroy the MDT. To ensure the house would remain safe, letting his guard down, Richtofen leaves the soul key on the table, unaware who was trapped within. The voice inside calls out to Maxis and influences him due to his lack of soul, making him easy to control. Maxis opens the soul key, releasing the Shadow Man inside. Exploring his new surroundings, he opens a portal to Agartha and unleashes an Apothecan invasion. Monty enlists the help of Primus' crew to defeat the Shadow Man and save his perfect world from destruction. With the help of Maxis and Sophia, Primus manages to kill the Shadow Man and banish the Apothecans to places unknown. As the world returns to normal, Monty becomes concerned as Primus remains in front of him. Noticing the empty blood vials, he becomes angered, claiming that they're putting his realm at risk. Initially, he decides to simply wipe them from existence, but he decides instead to send them somewhere else. The four then end up in the year 1299 in northern France, just as the Great War comes to an end, causing the cycle to continue. Set before the events of Gerard Krovi's cycle, Primus enters the pocket dimension of Alcatraz to pick up the blood vials, and ending up far from their intended target. The group enters the underground lab and finds Richtofen. He gives the vials to the group and instructs Richtofen to reread the Chronorium, and Richtofen scans through the pages, claiming that pages have been changed and that his blood is needed. He becomes enraged and throws the Chronorium before hearing a horde of zombies. The group then make their escape, but before entering the portal, Brutus destroys it, trapping the group within the twisted version of Alcatraz. Beside a mysterious machine known as the Dark Mechanism, the Cycle Primus crew battle against Brutus, whom is being resurrected time and time again. Cycle Richtofen realized that what the Chronorium meant, and that the machine was intended to draw his blood, and stepped inside, sacrificing himself to free the others. With Brutus finally unable to resurrect the rest of the Cycle Primus, is joined by the post-revelation cycle-breaking Primus Richtofen, who informed them that the future had changed and that Nikolai had to keep his soul to defeat Dr. Monty. The future Richtofen explained that the cycle was broken and that he wished that he could say he was sorry to his younger self. Taking the soul key, the future Richtofen handed Nikolai the Chronorium, telling that he would need to read it to defeat Dr. Monty. The remainder of the Primus members in the original Dimension 63 Richtofen exit, leaving the new Richtofen alone and scared. The machine continuing to drain his blood. In order to prepare for the coming battle, Primus makes a stop at Grim Lake original timeline to gain some allies. Within Hangar 4, the Ultimus crew was being held, seemingly after the events of Moon, with Richtofen also retaining his body as Ultimus Nikolai expresses glee at being able to drink uninterrupted. Primus Nikolai emerged from a portal, asking his alternate self if drowning sorrows in vodka is the best choice. The Primus crew rallies their alternate selves and recruit them to fight the coming battle as they each face their alternate selves. Ultimus Dempsey asks Primus Nikolai what kind of war, to which he replies, a war unlike any other you've ever seen, a great war. Alongside Primus and Ultimus, Nikolai led his comrades to Camp Edward facility in Nevada to gain access to the elemental shard. With the assistance of Rushmore, Primus and Ultimus defeat the former director of the facility, Cornelius Purnell, who has since become the Avogadro, and gain access to the elemental shard. Soon after, the group is reunited with Samantha and Eddie, who have been teleported from the house to Camp Edward. Soon after their events to Camp Edward, Nikolai leads the group to an unknown forest where they start a campfire and begin celebrating their upcoming victory. Within the Great War, however, Nikolai had previously poisoned the alcohol the rest of the group was drinking, killing all of them besides Ultimus Richtofen, who had become undead Richtofen. Nikolai then contacts Victus, who was sent by Richtofen to Siberia to build the Agarthan device and assist them through the trans-dimensional contact. After Victus completes the Agarthan device, they send it to Nikolai, who then uses it to destroy the summoning key. Immediately after, the multiverse, including Victus, is banished to the Dark Ether. Overhearing Richtofen apologizing to Victus, Nikolai responds with "Me too," Richtofen, as he shoots Richtofen with the Welling, killing him. He then hands the welling to Samantha, implying that he wishes for her to be the one that finishes the job in his last moments. Nikolai reminisces of his journey thus far and his friends. Nikolai closes his eyes and accepts his fate as Samantha shoots him. Moving on to the letters that he wrote. December 10th, 1917. It appears my current exile from the motherland may prove fortuitous. I have received orders to undertake a vital mission in northern France. Reports from the area suggest that the Kaiser's war machine may be gearing up to unleash something unlike anything we've ever seen before. Nikolai Belinski. February 23rd, 1918. Despite the abdication, my country remains gripped by civil war. Reds and whites battle for power as I am forced to watch helplessly from afar. Despite the March Treaty, many among us do not expect lasting peace or memories. Our memories will not allow us to forget the tens of thousands of souls lost at Tannenberg. This war remains a threat to our futures. The people of France share my hatred and contempt from the Hun. They have been very kind to me on my journeys, offering me water, food, and shelter. And other more worldly comforts. It is a great relief that even amongst the madness of war, I may still find moments of joy in the arms of a good woman. Nikolai Belinski. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.